Hi, lecturer in UC. My name is Donovan, and I'm from PTA ICT305 Group 2. And I'm here today actually to present to you our dashboard as well as our analysis for university and degree employment. So just to give a brief a summary of our project. So for the insights for future graduates, it's actually to help students and families make more informed decision using real-world data. And how we came about that is actually to just to introduce our project case, is that in Singapore, many students that have finished their secondary school or polytechnic actually have a crucial decision to make, and often find it difficult to find out which is the right university or degree program that they should take. See, but with this lack of information, they usually would rely on going to their family members or past graduates and seek their advice, which then could lead to irrelevant data or the lack of data to be more precise. And with this lack of data, it will actually influence their decision and it may not be the right choice for them. So this project actually is to bridge that gap by providing real world data or more like visuals and data insights to actually support and back their decision making. So just to highlight some of the problems that we have encountered is that uh, based on the decision making, how we will be able to address it is firstly, how do Singapore universities actually rank globally? And secondly, what percentage of fresh grads succeed in getting a job employment? And thirdly is what courses often uh, offer high starting salaries? And is overseas education worth the cost? And lastly is how do local tuition grants influence affordability? So with all of those problems, these are the goals for the project that we have came up with. Is first to identify trends in graduate employment as well as their salaries. And secondly is to help students evaluate the best university for their needs. Thirdly is to provide clear data insights via interactive dashboards. And fourth is to support public understanding of our higher education system. And lastly is to inform recruiters about salary benchmarks and hiring trends. So the target audience we're actually looking at is students, educators, policymakers. And for secondary one, we're looking at is employers, recruiters, as well as the parents and guardians. So just to now move on to our data sets. And so these are the data sets that we'll be using to actually help with our analysis.
Hi, my name is Ong Wai Lun. I'm completing Analysis 1, comparing cost of living between Singapore with other countries for my group assignment 2. The main goal of my Analysis 1 is to provide insight for students in Singapore to compare cost of living among other countries for them to make a better decisions on study local or overseas. My hypothesis for Graph 1 is bachelor degrees in engineering and computer science offer higher salary opportunities for fresh grads. This is my graph 1. Users can forward to the graph to see the details of gross monthly median and the degrees. This is my key insight for my graph 1, and there is a recommendation for students. For my graph 2, is to compare the salary between degrees in university. Users can also forward to the graph to see the details of the degrees and their median salary respectively. That's my key insight for the graph 2, and there's a recommendation for my graph 2 as well. For my graph 3 is to discuss the top 10 countries by restaurant price index. Based on the graph, users can hover to the graph to see the restaurant price index and the country respectively. This is my key insight for my graph 3. And for my graph 4, is comparing the top 10 countries with highest cost of livings. For my graph 4, you can see that Singapore is placing in number 4 and is quite high, but actually it's due to the high rental. It's not the cost of living is that high. So there's a key insight for my graph 4. For my graph 5 is to compare the cost of living vs the rent index. From this graph, you can see that Singapore have the highest rent index. But the cost of living index is not the top compared to other countries. For my graph 6 is to compare the cost of living vs the local purchasing power. Users can also hover to see the details of the cost of living index, local purchasing power, and also a rent index respectively. Here's a key insight for my graph 6, and there's a recommendation as well. For my summary, although cost of living in Singapore is higher than in other countries, but it's still a smart choice to study in Singapore because the local purchasing power and earning potential in Singapore is higher compared with other countries. Thank you.
I'm Xiaohui from Group 2, and now I'll be sharing my analysis 2, which will look at how graduates' field of study, whether it's STEM or non-STEM, can affect their job outcomes, especially when it comes to employment rate and the starting average salary. Our main hypothesis is that STEM graduates are more likely to get full-time jobs and earn better pay within 6 months of graduation as compared to the non-STEM graduates. We have also explored the 5 sub-hypotheses. First, we noticed that the STEM salaries started growing faster than the non-STEM salaries, especially after 2018. Even those in the lower salary range within the STEM, they also earn more than the non-STEM peers. The basic and the gross monthly salaries has a very similar trend. It suggests that the STEM grads also receive more bonuses and allowances. So our suggestion is students looking for salary growth might want to consider STEM-related courses, while the non-STEM students can focus more on the career preparations and the industry skills to boost their career outcomes. Second, we found that STEM graduates had better chance of securing full-time jobs. We found that although both groups had high employment rates above 90%, STEM started to overtake the non-STEMs after 2018. And during the COVID-19 period, in 2020, the non-STEM graduates were more affected, while the STEM graduates able to bounce back more quickly. So for students hoping to land a full-time job fast, the STEM fields are a good option since they are in high demand. Third, we look at which university has the best salary outcome for STEM graduates. We saw that SMU, SUTD, and NUS consistently perform well, with the SMU topping the list from 2019 to 2022, even though it is not the traditional STEM school. So when choosing a school, students may want to consider those with strong industry linkage and the interdisciplinary program, as this can really help boosting their starting pay. Fourth, we found that universities with strong reputations and career supports like SMU, NUS, and NTU, they had the highest full-time employment rate for STEM graduates. Even though schools like SUTD and SIT did well earlier years, they fell behind in 2022. So if a job stability is important, then choosing a school with strong career supports and gaining experience through internship and industry projects can really make a big difference. Lastly, we look at the types of STEM degrees with the higher starting pay. Degrees in computing, AI, and business analytics came out on top, with all the top 10 programs offering starting salary over 5,000 Singapore dollars. Top schools here include NUS, NTU, SMU, SUTD, and SIT. So if students are aiming for high-paying jobs, tech-related degrees, or even double major combining tech and business, it's worth us exploring. So to sum it up, STEM grads generally earn more and get jobs faster than the non-STEM grads. After 2018, the STEM grads overtake the non-STEMs in both salary and the employment rate. Universities like SMU, NUS, and NTU, they produce the best results. And tech fields like computing, AI, and analytics are especially valuable in Singapore's current job market. And here's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Now I'll dive right into my analysis, which will actually compare STEM and non-STEM graduates in ways affecting salary and job opportunities as well. So for my first graph, just to run through, my first graph actually showcases that NTU and US clearly are in the lead due to their global reputation as well as strong industry links. SMU and SIT also have a good outcome, whilst SUTD and SUSS are lower, possibly due to a small graduate cohort, or if not, there is a niche program. So then moving on to my next graph, actually it showcases that STEM graduates have a clear edge thanks to the industry demands for technical skills in areas of like engineering, computing, and data science. Non-STEMs also do well, but the difference is noticeable. Then moving on to my third graph actually showcases that STEM graduates earn more at both medium and upper salary range. But for non-STEM, is more spread out. So this suggests actually that STEM skills are valued more and rewarded accordingly. So then now moving on to my fourth graph. So my fourth graph actually showcases that STEM salaries have grown steadily, especially in 2020, and reflects how technical skills become more in demand post-pandemic, while non-STEM also do grow steadily, but the difference is noticeable. My fifth graph actually showcases that data science, AI, and transport management stand actually at a higher salary range. Business-related degrees also perform well, but feels like public policies and architecture tend to be on the lower median. And now moving on to my last graph. My last graph showcases that the salaries according to degree type. So for degrees such as AI and engineering actually dominate the top. Business and computing fields hold up as well, while architecture and public policy offer lower earning potentials. So with this, just to summarize up my analysis, is that graduates from STEM and specialized fields like data science and AI tend to earn more and get hired faster. Universities with strong reputation like NTU and US actually provide better outcomes. And with this analysis, it will actually give insight to students, families, and policymakers to make a more informed decision on their career planning ahead. So with this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you for your time.
So here is Yushen from Group 2. This is analysis 4. The goal is and the hypothesis is to attract international students to study in Singapore by showcasing the exceptional academic standard and strong safety measure of Singapore University. The first hypothesis is NUS and NTU has consistently ranked between the top 15 globally over the years and maintaining their position among the world-leading universities. So the first graph is an interactive GS rank trend of top 10 uni from 2017 to 2024. So from the graph, right, MIT has considered held the rank number 1 from 2017 to 2024, and Stanford University and Harvard University has maintained top 3 position, showing their continuous academic and research excellence. The second graph will just focus on NTU and NUS. So NUS is the red line, has maintained a relatively stable ranking, staying between the top 11 to top 15 range over the years and reached rank number 8 in 2024. However, NTU has maintained the ranking until 2022 and dropped until 2026 and year 2024. So the recommendation for this hypothesis is NUS has considered maintain its position between the top 15 and go over to rank number 8 at 2024, while NTU has remained top 15 until 2022. So despite ranking fluctuation, both universities remain excellent choice for future study. The second hypothesis is Singapore is the safest country compared to other countries that top 10 university located at. So the first graph is showing the word plot of crime index. So the darker the color is the higher crime index. Then the second graph is showing the university location. So you can see that MIT, University of Cambridge, and also Harvard University is at the same city. And here is the NUS, which is located at Singapore. So the key insight of this graph is the Imperial College London has the highest crime index compared to other top 10 university, which is this one. And MIT, Harvard University, and University of Cambridge have the equal crime rate since they locate at the same city. And NUS has slightly lower crime rate compared to MIT, Harvard University, and University of Cambridge, which is this one. And the ETH Zurich is the one have the lower crime rate index, which is this one. So the recommendation is for this hypothesis is Singapore considered emerge as a safer city compared to major university in countries like UK and Canada, which has a higher crime rate.
Hi, I'm Cliffley, and today I'll be testing my main hypothesis on whether university attendance is the determining factor of monthly salary of fresh graduates. So to evaluate this, I looked at salary distribution across the 6 Singapore universities, as well as employment rates and global rankings. So my first sub-hypothesis is whether students from Singapore's top 3 universities have the highest earning potential. And the interactive box plot here shows that SMU typically leads with the highest salary. You can also see that the box plot has many outliers, which suggests a diverse range of salaries. This might be because that universities offer the different number of degrees. We would of course recommend students who are looking to have the highest earning potential once they graduate to enroll schools in the top 3 rankings. So next, I tested if STEM degrees are the highest paying degrees for fresh graduates. The data supports the sub-hypothesis, as fields like computing, engineering, and law consistently show the highest mean salaries. And from this bar chart, we can also see that as the years progress, more and more IT-related degrees begin to appear in the top 15. So this trend reflects how the world is becoming increasingly technologically advanced, as well as dependent on technology. So of course, we recommend students who are keen in IT to look into IT degrees, or even just STEM and law degrees in general, as they consistently lead the salary charts. My next sub-hypothesis is whether the higher the employment rate, the higher the salary. Using a scatter plot, we can see that there's a slight positive correlation between the employment rate and salary. So meaning that when employment rate increases, salary also tend to increase. But we can see that the correlation is relatively weak, suggesting that while employment rate is good to know for job security, but it does not significantly influence the salary. So my next sub-hypothesis will be if global rankings affect the fresh graduate earning potential. So likewise, I also use a scatter plot to display the relationship between the university rank and salary. So as can be seen, among the 6 Singapore universities, only 3 of them are ranked. We can also see that the correlation is relatively weak, as the data points are very widely dispersed. So this suggests that rankings have little to no effect on salary among the top 3 ranked unis in Singapore. Now, since Singapore universities do not offer the same degree programs, comparing their ranking in isolation does not provide an accurate measure of earning potential. So therefore, to gain deeper insights, the top 4 highest paying degrees, along with some popular non-STEM degrees, were grouped to calculate their mean salaries. We use a bar chart to display all their salaries here. When comparing the degree categories, NUS and SMU typically rank higher, while SIT and SUSS are positioned at the lower end. So to conclude, the hypothesis that university choice affects salary is only partially supported. While it has some impact, it is not the most significant factor in determining salary. So degree choice actually has a much higher impact on earning potential, with STEM-related fields earning the highest salaries. Thank you.